Hello and welcome to Medicine Man yet again as we celebrate our 11 years in the service of the Indian pharma and the healthcare industry by bringing in healthcare and pharma thought leaders to share their perspectives on various challenges that are facing the healthcare and pharma industry. So this was the first Pharma CEO Roundtable that we had in the year 2012 with the galaxy of pharma leaders participating in the CEO Roundtable, which was moderated by Sujay Shetty, the pharma lead at PricewaterhouseCoopers, sponsored by Joshua Mensch of Data3S from the Czech Republic. And then you have Mr. Giridhar Balwani, who was then the CEO of Minarini, and Sri Hari Shirdiye, a very senior executive at Abbott, and Mr. N.B. Gad, the then CEO of Panacea Biotech. After that, we had several seminars and conferences, and you're seeing here Mr. Hariram Krishnan, who has been the chief mentor of Medicine Man, guiding us all the way through these 11 years to emerge as one of the leading platforms of conducting seminars, conferences, and interactions with the thought leaders like Shiv Kumar Natarajan, a brilliant speaker from Glaxo, and many others speaking and sharing their insights and experiences at our platforms. This is a glimpse of our 2006 event, and we had Manish Bajaj, the VP at Dr. Reddy's, delivering the keynote address. This was one of its kind event that Medicine Man staged pharmaceutical marketing in the new age in association with ACG, and Mr. Anaswamy Vaidish, the then managing director of Glaxo, spoke at the seminar. And also Atish Majumdar, currently the president of Mankind Pharma, spoke at this very august gathering of over 70 C-suite level executives and 20 pharmaceutical CEOs present at this particular conference. Here's a view of the inauguration where Ajit Singh, the chairman of ACG Worldwide, is inaugurating the event along with the very senior executives from the pharma industry. And then we tried a Bangalore edition, which also went off very well. We did it in partnership with the Karnataka Drug Manufacturers Association, with Sunil Athawar, who was then the president of KDPMA, and Mr. Prabeer Jha, who was then the president and global Chief People Officer at Cipla, delivering the keynote address. And so we have over the years been able to bring a galaxy of pharma leaders to present their views at our various events. And we thought that this year it's high time, since there has been a gap of 2 years because of COVID. And we will be having the Pharma CEO Roundtable and DigiStorm 2022 in September this year. So keep looking for the social media space. Follow Medicine Man on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter to keep updated about details of sponsorship and participation at this great event that we will be having in September. This is what we did during the COVID. We did not sit quietly. We set up Digital Excellence Pharma Academy in partnership with the CredoWeb of Bulgaria, who are one of the leading players in digital service providers for the Eastern Europe and European countries. And we brought over 25 industry thought leaders to have daily webinars and interactions. And we also brought along doctors as well to the platform, because pharma keeps saying that doctors are not digital savvy. And these doctors were present there to present their viewpoints that they have very well adapted to the digital environment. And so I will be asking Salil these questions in the interview that I'm going to have with him. What things should be kept in mind while developing content strategy? And Salil has been talking about this from quite a long time, and you can access all these just by Googling the title of DigiStorm or Field Force Excellence or Medicine Man or just Anup Sones, and you will have access to all this wonderful content that is available. Mr. Hariram Krishnan has also written more than 100 articles for Medicine Man in the last 11 years on various aspects of learning and development for frontline managers right up to the CEO level. So all this are available to you to view at any time just by searching for it on Google. So this is the very important question that we will be looking at in my discussion with Salil Kalyanpur. How well is pharma adapting the challenges? Is it continuing with its push strategy, or has it been able to develop pull strategies which is not product driven but physician driven? The DigiStorm workshop will be led by Salil Kalyanpur, and we will put all the learnings of all these years to help you in your digital transformation journey. So hold in there while I bring in Salil Kalyanpur for the interactions. Good morning, Salil, and great to be with you once again.
Morning, Anup. Very nice to have you and have a good conversation again after a long time.
I hope you have been recharged by climbing the mountains in Darjeeling and Sikkim.
Yes, I let off the heat and the dust of Mumbai in the hills there.
Wonderful. I think more people need to do that to get some bright ideas. We are on the process of restarting our offline platforms, which I think for 2 years now we have put on hold. The one of its kind platforms like the Pharma CEO Roundtable, which we have been doing since 2012. And I think it'll be great to start all over again, meeting people physically. Just like we met last week, there's nothing to substitute for physical meetings. I mean, digital meetings are great because you can't meet physically all the time, especially when you're separated by distance. So I'm looking forward to starting the offline platforms, Pharma CEO Roundtable and DigiStorm all over again, Salil.
Oh, that's really exciting, Anup. And I think this is great news for not just for the industry but for all of us as well, because I think after 2018 and 19, which is like 3 or 4 years back, we unfortunately were not able to create any other an event. And so, I think what the industry gains a lot is not just from great speakers and great content, but an ability to network. And if we are able to bring like-minded people together, and even if it's just for a few hours or a day at most, I'm sure there's tremendous value that gets created from those networking.
Absolutely. So it's 11-year-long journey, Salil, and it's been wonderful getting to know you and your ideas and thoughts, which I think were really far ahead of time. And you've spoken at all the forums that Medicine Man has conducted. And I think you'll be excited once again to be offline with your friends in pharma. And I was also thinking that, we had planned the 60 minutes with Medicine Man covering important events that are happening in the pharma world would be a good way for us to keep the pharma professionals informed of what's happening. I just a few days back, I posted about Mankind Pharma starting DocFlix, and I think there's been a very good response to that. It's always nice to see a company like Mankind Pharma, which is predominantly a field force oriented company, taking steps to go digital.
I fully agree. I think what Mankind has shown is that they are definitely more customer oriented and customer focused than many of the other so-called customer focused companies. And it's always nice to see that this kind of engagement platforms are getting created, or where content and technology are being used in a very thoughtful manner. And it's been actually, the hope is that this will create a lot of value for the customers. I'm pretty sure that that will happen. But the hope is that many others will pick up on it. And when you have a trailblazer like Mankind, it's always good to see other organizations wanting to do something of that nature.
So even though COVID was, time for us to, not be able to meet physically, but I think we put on a fantastic show throughout 2020 and 2021 by bringing in all these thought leaders from across the industry, and not just from the pharma, but we also had medical doctors coming on our platform. And I look forward to more of that. We had service providers, tech providers, and all sorts of people, agencies like Sorrento and Prafula Kali coming in, and we had Dr. Sanjay Mitra coming in. So it was a fabulous collection of videos, over 52 videos that are still available for pharma people to view. So it's exciting to move on from here to the next phase, and start the physical platforms where we can answer questions like how important is content in digital engagement within HCP at our forthcoming conference. So Salil, your take.
Oh yeah, I think this is a very important question, Anup, and I think some people have been struggling with this for quite a bit. Many of the clients who I work with or other companies where I consult with have always felt that they understand that content is the king. So that as the cliche goes, content is king is now such a cliche that everybody who deals with content will give you that first. That's they lead with that quote, and I'm sure many of them have not understood this in the way that Bill Gates meant it when he actually said this about 30 years ago. So, why is content king is not really understood by most people, and I'm very curious to ask leaders, pharma leaders, this question when we do the event in September, because I want to understand their perspectives about how they look at content. According to me, the role of content was always king, whether it is digital or not. In the online or the offline world, content has always dominated mostly. You like to meet people who say good things or give you something that you learn, or you like to read books that are informative, or you like to watch movies that are novel or something. So content has always been very, very interesting. But why is content such a focus area in digital? And I think the fact of that goes to the to the heart of the matter, which is basically that digital is an impersonal medium. Why have all of us enjoyed meeting each other in person? Because in an offline world, we are all warm and cozy and very, very nice to each other. Especially we know each other very well, but if you meet strangers, it's much better to have an interaction in person where you can see, you can shake their hands, you can see their body language, all of that. The communication happens 100%. But in the offline world, that personalization is missing. And so therefore the role of content becomes even more important over there, because unless your content can engage, there is no other reason for a customer or for anybody who you are targeting to want to engage with on your platform. And then if there is no engagement, which is the basic reason for having a digital marketing outreach in the first place, your entire campaign falls apart.
So next question, Salil, what key things should pharma keep in mind while developing a content strategy?
So I think there is this whole Google model about how content has to be made or how a content strategy has to be made, and I think those basics are very, very interesting. Where Google talks about the hygiene hub and hero model, or I think hygiene is now called help. So the help, hub and hero. So a lot of the content that I see getting made in the pharmaceutical industry is largely in the hygiene or the help category, which is like nice to know, right? So the nice to know content is not engaging at all. It might engage a couple of times because it comes from somebody that the doctor knows, or that there's some level of familiarity or all of that, but you cannot these are like the good morning messages that you get on WhatsApp, and those are probably the most infuriating that you can get. The sender might think that he's actually, nudging the relationship along, but actually what happens is that customer annoyance is very high. I think we need to make that leap from the hygiene to the hub, and then from the hub to the hero, and that, I think, is where the role of data becomes very important. So understanding your customer very well, okay, is another important thing, and something that is again misunderstood. So most pharma marketers think that they know everything about their doctors. Why? Because they did a survey sometime in January or February when they were building their brand plan, right? And so it's impossible that the customer will stay static, right? Neither the market nor the customer nor life in general stays static. So if things are changing, earlier we would not have had the opportunity of refreshing our understanding or looking at insights and collecting data about our customers in a continuous basis, and that's what the digital platforms offer you. So technology platforms can allow you to collect data, and then knowing what to do with that data is probably what helps us to move from the hygiene to the hub to the hero. Understand why you're doing this, what you want to achieve out of it, and then think about how you want to bucket your content from hygiene to hub to hero, which is basically the use of data and customer insighting to provide personalization.
Right. I think so. The key takeaway is that your content has to have some definite purpose as to why you are communicating. And then I think it will be very useful to have that help, hub, and hero content. So you're not just informing people of something that's happening, but you are actually engaging them and creating an experience that they are unlikely to forget.
Absolutely. I think there is also this understanding of who can build all this content, right? If you have to move between hygiene hub and hero, or help hub and hero, how does all of this land at the product manager, right? And so marketing folks who are listening to this might suddenly get very upset, saying that, what all do you expect me to do? I can't keep personalizing, I can't keep creating multiple levels of content or different buckets of content. It's as it is very difficult for me to do what I'm doing, and you expect me to do more, and that's not the idea at all. So in the three buckets, it's easy to see how these three buckets can actually help you towards a tactical plan, right? So who creates the hygiene or the help content? Probably me, because I'm churning out millions of pieces as promotional material and all that, which is all brand oriented, which has got everything to do with product, hardly anything to do with customer, right? So all of that, I think, fits well within the hygiene or the help bucket. But can I create hub? Probably not, right? Because the hub model requires data, it requires personalization, it requires a technology platform, it requires many different things which I probably don't have in my company. So what do I do? Maybe that is where I think about collaborating. That's where I think about aggregation. That's where I think about curating, right? So there's tremendous amount of content out there on the internet. Why would you not want to curate? The need for collaboration that you bring up is extremely highlighted in this kind of a thing. And maybe the hero part is where you think about user generated content. You get doctors to create, which I think is the mankind model, right? Because they're collaborating with cardiologists, and at least they talked about cardiologists. I'm sure they're doing it with many other specialties as well. And so therefore, when your colleague or when somebody has created a video or an infographic, or published a case report or something, there's a large likelihood of greater engagement with that content, and that kind of features in the hero model. So I think that sort of thinking is what I'm going to be examining if I ever get a chance to maybe moderate a forum or send out a survey or ask questions to people.
Great. I think there's a lot of scope for engaging our people before the event through surveys and short panel discussions that we can have. And you have been talking about digital marketing is all about intent, content, strategy, skills way back in 2017 and even before that. So another question about content, Salil, is that does it exist in isolation, or is it a subset of a larger marketing strategy? Because we hear the words being used loosely as digital strategy or digital marketing. So it'd be helpful if you can throw some light on this.
Yeah, and I've said this multiple times in the past, and not just me, a lot of others, who know a lot more about this than I do. they've constantly been saying that there's nothing called digital marketing or there's nothing called a digital strategy. Marketing is marketing. You use digital, non-digital, all of it. It's not something different, and it's all integrated into a larger objective, and that objective comes from the marketing strategy. So I think content or any other part is basically a tactic, which is definitely a subset of the larger marketing strategy. Now that's where the whole idea of knowing what to do becomes very important, right? And I've many people ask me for best practices. I've never been a fan of that at all, because how does that make sense? In what way does it make sense? If I tell you what Lupin is doing, or if I tell you what Glenmark is doing and all of that, it'll be a nice to know thing. Are you going to be doing any of that? Are you going to take lessons out of it? No. So the people might react in different ways. One guy will say, "Oh, Lupin is doing that, so let me also do this." Somebody else will say, "Okay, Reddy's is doing this, so let me also try and do this." It makes no sense, because your customers are different, your needs are different, the place where your brand is different, right? And customers react to you in a different way from your competition. So if you want to simply do what others are doing, then you're not actually creating any value. You're basically copying and imitating, and that makes no sense. Right, so I think the strategy part, getting the strategy right, is very, very important, and I focus a lot on this in the workshop, on helping people to understand how you can create an hierarchy of metrics. How can you work so the brand strategy becomes your something that you lead with, and then everything else falls into place under it. And content is just a tactical part of the plan, where you are able to use content as a way of engaging people, but for what comes from the marketing strategy. So that's what I think.
Great. I think that's a very clear-cut explanation as to, the strategy is the key, and content has to flow from the objectives that you want to achieve through that strategy. And there's no point in copying somebody's strategy, because that strategy operates as relevant to their company's objectives. And therefore, you need to work hard on creating your own strategy and develop content that can be used on digital platforms, that can be used on through their field force. And so there's an integrated message going to the doctor that helps him to have better recall of your company as a provider of great content. So Salil, we have been holding sessions for a long time. This one was a very memorable one. Pharma marketing in the new age. I think we were able to get about 20 pharma CEOs in one place. And in fact, the hall was filled with about 70 vice presidents from across the country. So this was a fantastic event that we have. And I think you addressed in many ways the question as to how does the company go about building such an engagement initiative. But right now it would be helpful for our audience if you could share your insights again.
I think in this meeting there were some really interesting insights that came from people like Vivek Kamath, from Suresh Subramaniam, from some of the others, including Mr. Vaidish and Mr. Sikri, Yugal Sikri. So they had some interesting things to say about how does an engagement initiative, or how does an HCP engagement initiative actually work, and what do you need to do to go and do it. So the first thing is, you start a journey by knowing where you want to go. Otherwise, you're just wandering. Most who travel or start something know where they want to go. And so therefore, again, comes the whole role of the objective. Getting your strategy right. What do you want to do? How are you competing in the marketplace? Who are your customers? Who are your competitors? And what are you doing which is different from those competitors? So how do you differentiate yourself? If you know all these parts, this is where your strategy becomes strong. Then comes the idea of knowing your customer. Okay, so just knowing the external environment is not enough. It's a lot to do with what your customer is doing. For example, what are the pain points in the life of the customer? What can I solve? Okay, and this is where I pick up examples from Google or from the digital first companies, which eventually reach out to you without anyone meeting you. Nobody from that company comes to see you. Nobody gives you a discount. Nobody comes and tells you, I will give you a financial incentive to change from what product that you're using to do something like this. It doesn't work like that, right? but the customer ends up making that product an indispensable part of his life. And that is because there is something inherent within that customer's behavior that makes the product an instant fit. And so it's that level of granularity at which brands or companies must understand the customer's behavior, needs, wants, preferences, all of that. So that's the second part. I think once you've got that right, then you know what messages you want to communicate. The messaging becomes the nudging part. So as the customer goes through the journey, there are messages that require, there are nudges that require that person to go through into the direction that you want, or the brand wants, or the company wants. And that's where the role of content becomes important. What content to send at what time? So the role of the content and the channel becomes very important when you know the context, right? So that context is of the customer's behavior, and what behavior, how you want him to move, right? He's at a particular behavior point and you want him to go to a desired state. How do you manage that? So then comes the whole idea of, what, send a video, should I send an email, should I send an SMS, will something suffice? So most coffee meetings probably be a telephone call. A telephone call can probably be an email can probably be a WhatsApp message. So you have to understand what to use when. You can't call up somebody and say, let's meet for a coffee, just to catch up. No one has the time to do those kind of things, and so those things are those days are gone when there was no other way in which you could actually meet, so you would go out and have a cup of coffee. Today there are so many different channels through which you can communicate, and that's true for your customer as well. If you're sending too much of a heavy content and expecting him to do something different, he's going to be put off. So knowing what to send where becomes a very important part of it. Knowing when to send what is the next part, right? The chronology. So the rep has to meet first, then an email has to be released, then a particular call has to happen, or the telesales guy has to reach out, and then there has to be a PDF of a material sent, and a video sent, and an email sent. So a particular chronology. If that chronology gets broken, again your content strategy is gone for a toss, or your whole engagement has gone for a toss. So the ideal endpoint of all of this, when all of this is done right, the customer engages superbly, and the customer engages constantly because the experience is something that the customer has enjoyed. And so if that happens, then you've got everything right. Now this is very easy to say, it's very tough to do, and that's why we see that not everybody can actually do this. And so I think that in the digital economy, the competitive advantage comes from knowing how to engage your customer through great experiences, rather than having a huge sales force or a huge product list or a very deep product basket or something. Not that those are not important, they're definitely important, but they're not competitive advantages. Your competitive advantage is where you know how to engage your customer through a great experience, and very few companies can actually do that. So I think, especially in a market where products are not differentiated, because we are in a branded generic market, right? There are 100 brands of the same molecule available. How do you differentiate? Your differentiation comes from this, from how you can actually give that doctor a great experience. But again, most people will nod their heads when I say this. Great experience. Yes, of course. We have to think about. But how do you define a great experience? And I think that's an area where we should do some deep dive in the event. Get different people to talk about what experiences mean, not just from pharma. Probably we should bring in digital health companies, content creators. Maybe there's a scope for a lot of those collaborators who are doing a lot of good work in this area, and bring out perspective, tease out some good perspectives about what customer experience means. And I think it will give people a great amount of understanding of how to go about building initiatives like these.
Great. So content must have a context, and then you must choose the right channel for the right kind of communication, and then only you can build great communication. But I think the great advantage in the digital world is that if you have made a misstep, the data comes back to you, or the feedback comes back to you, and you can correct course immediately. Whereas when a rep goes and meets a doctor and somehow the communication has not gone as planned, then he has to wait for another month to do the course correction. So I think even if a rep goes and does the call doesn't go as planned, you have a digital platform, to make the course correction in real time. I think that's the real advantage of what we call as a hybrid model, that you use the field force where they are very effective because they will remain to be uh, you know the pivot for the pharma promotions, but then use digital, to add on to that and add great value by being able to give the right content with the right context by selecting the right channels. Great listening to you, Salil. So I think you already answered this in your previous question. How pharma it is adapting. I think they have to really move from the push strategies to the pull strategies, and I will keep this answer for you to answer at the forthcoming uh, DigiStorm and a combination of the Pharma CEO Roundtable in September, rather than giving it all away today. Because one of the principles of digital communication is bite-sized conversation are very important for people and micro learning. So, Salil, just the last question. So you have shared a lot, and you have been sharing a lot through the 11 years that we have been having these offline platforms. So how are you planning to build a session to bring this learning in the Pharma CEO Roundtable and DigiStorm in September 2022?
Well, I think the bringing together of a lot of pharma leaders to will be awesome, and I want to focus on just the customer experience part of it. I think that's the future of marketing in the pharmaceutical industry, especially in the branded generic pharmaceutical industry, because like I said, products don't differentiate. So how do you differentiate? I think customer experience is a great opportunity, and there's a lot of ambiguity around it. What does experience mean? How can we create experience? How can we measure experience? And you brought out a great point, Anup, about how digital allows you to build, to measure, and to learn constantly. And so marketing is not a series of different events, right? It's a continuous process. You have to keep on building and measuring and learning and then rebuilding and then measuring and learning, and so consistently that happens. Unfortunately, during my time in marketing, we didn't have too much of opportunities to do this. But I think today the youngsters who are coming into marketing are looking at the world in a very different way. With all the data that's available to them, with all the technology that is available to them, I think they can do a much better job than any of us did in the past. So I want to bring all of that out. How can we do a lot differently than doing the same thing again and again and expecting different results. I think that's the crux of what I'm planning to do.
Great, Salil. It's wonderful talking to you all over again, and I look forward to your putting together the sessions, the selection of speakers, so that we can have a wonderful time. Like you said, get to shake hands again and see the body language and make the eye contact. And whether one is a pharma professional, whether one is in any area of healthcare, or more importantly, if they are service providers to the pharma industry, this would be a great occasion for them to meet them right from the breakfast to hopefully even a cocktail night to discuss all the common interests that we share in helping the physician and the patient for the physician to manage his practice better, for the patient to manage his life better. And if these two can do that, I think the pill will automatically. Great, Salil. I look forward to having these monthly conversations with you till we have our event, live event in September. So thank you everybody for listening in, and do tune in to our next program, which we will announce on the social media platforms. Thank you, Salil. Have a great day.
Thank you, Anup. Thank you.